Good afternoon. The session number 10 starts. The chairperson for this session is Dr. V. Tilagavati. I will just give a short introduction about Madam. She was awarded the UGC Postdoctorate Fellowship under the scheme of Dr. S. Radhakrishnan Postdoctorate Fellowship in Humanities and Social Science. She worked as a principal in Maha Cooperative College of Higher Education and Technology for the past 2 years. She cleared UGC NET in education during 2012. She was awarded with the UGC GRF Research Fellowship for pursuing PhD in education. She has published 4 articles in reputed national and international journals. She also published a chapter in the book Education and Weaker Section. She also participated and presented the paper in 11 international conferences. She participated and presented the paper in 20 national conferences. She has participated in nearly more than 12 workshops conducted by HRDC of many universities, ICSSR sponsored and UGC sponsored programs. Her broad area of interest is women's education. She has done her research, PhD and PDF in her area of interest. I welcome you, Madam. Dr. Tilagavati, ma'am. I request you to take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm really happy to be here with you people and I'm just having a list of the members. I want to know whether all the members were there in this group or not. Can I?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. We start.
Okay. First, I'm just inviting Dr. Pratima Rai, Assistant Professor, Sabarmati University, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Madam, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, please, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, your voice is very clear.
May I
Please do
share
your
my
presentation. Yes, of course, ma'am. Please.
Okay, thank you. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yes, it is visible.
Very warm greetings to all present here. My topic for the session is a comparative study of Indian diasporic literature with special focus on female writers. I had planned that before I start talking about my main writers, I had decided to talk about some, diaspora a little bit. But I observed that since yesterday there have been a lot of participants who had been, talking about diaspora a lot. So I'm not going in detail about diaspora, except some of the, basic information that we all know actually. So this particular term diaspora has been derived from Greek word diaspora, which means I spread about. So basically, this term actually, refers to a group of people who have migrated to another land in seeking jobs or better education or better lifestyle. So the diaspora, if I talk about the Indian diaspora, I'm moving, very fast because I don't want to cover diaspora a lot because it has already been discussed. So if I talk about Indian diaspora, so it started during the colonial period. And if we look back at history, so we will come to know that it was basically a kind of forced diaspora. People were not willing to go abroad, but they were forcefully sent to foreign lands, either as indentured laborers or slaves. But post-independence, it turned into willful movement. As I said, for seeking jobs, better education, lifestyle, more money and all. And as per a report, more than 18 million Indians are currently living in different parts of the world. And thus they make the largest diaspora in the world. Now comes the term diasporic literature. So, what is diasporic literature? So, it is basically an umbrella term, and it is used for the literary works written by those authors who lived outside their nation. And if we look at the theme of these literary works, so mostly it is the culture, the tradition of the nation they originally belong to. They try to remain connected to their roots through their creation. Uh, Similarly, if I talk about the some other themes, so it is past memories, culture, quest for identity, then sense of loss of root and alienation. So there is one Indian writer who was actually part of my thesis also when I was a research scholar, A.K. Ramanujan. He was a renowned poet and translator. He is a renowned poet and translator. And if we go through his poems, so we will find out plenty of references of Indian culture and its rich heritage. For example, he talks about Indian rivers, he talks about the Indian markets, the ringing bells in the temple, the early morning hymns, uh, the chanting of mantras in the temple by the Brahmins, by the priest, the fisherwoman he is talking about. He talks about his cousins. He talks about his parents, especially he shows a very emotional kind of attachment with his mother. And then he talks about his father, though sometimes he sounds very rude when he talks about his father, but still we find glimpse of his father in many poems. And he shows a special attachment with his grandmother, who used to tell stories at night. So uh, uh, he is one of the diasporic writers. Fine. Now fine, I'm moving ahead. Okay. Now, the first writer whom I have considered for my this research paper is Bharti Mukherjee. She was born on July 27, 1940, and she was an Indian American Canadian writer and also professor in the Department of English at the University of California, Berkeley. And Bharti Mukherjee has authored a number of novels and short story collections. And she has also written some works of non-fiction. And after completing her MA from MS University, Vadodara, she moved to the United States for her further studies. And there she settled, and she got married to Clark Blaze, and finally she, settled in US. Now, her novel, The Tiger's Daughter, I have considered for this paper. And this novel, it was her first novel, and it was published in 1971. And the story of this novel revolves around the female protagonist, Tara Banerjee. She was raised in Calcutta, and she got her education in New York, and afterwards she got married to an American man. So somewhere it seems like a kind of an autobiography of Bharti Mukherjee. Anyway, if I talk about this particular novel from the diasporic point of view, so this novel is different from other diasporic works in terms of the complexity and diversity of the experience of those who return to their home country, and they find themselves in a place which is vastly different from the place of their memory. Fine. During her stay, Tara, feels the pain of migrant experience, which is manifested in nostalgia, loss of identity. Then we find homesickness and alienation also. But after many years, she comes back to her homeland, and she becomes surprised. Why? Because she sees a drastic change in the city Calcutta. And the novel explores her sense of culture shock when she travels back to India. Uh, uh, and she also faces the political situation in Calcutta and the whole state West Bengal. When Tara comes back, She thinks that it's hard to relate herself to family, city, and culture. And she watches the unpredictability of the city, Calcutta, which has got into the beat of a perforced change. She, she sees a kind of, she tries to make balance between, the uh, Calcutta which was in her memory and the Calcutta which she is now witnessing after her return from uh, US. It took almost 7 years to come back to India. So the novel, starts by Tara Banerjee returning home to her folks, keeping in mind the end goal to reconnect with them, and also with her different relatives and the school companions she had deserted. So the motivation behind her visit is to rediscover her underlying foundations and to see more about her Bengali Indian culture. Fine. Now, the next writer is Kiran Desai. She's the daughter of well-known, eminent novelist Anita Desai. And Kiran was born in Delhi, and she spent her early years of life in Punjab and Mumbai, and then she left India at the age of 14 with her mother. And they lived in England for a year before moving to the United States. And there she studied creative writing at Bennington College. Then now the her novel, The Inheritance of Loss, it is a very popular novel, and it was her second novel, and this novel brought her fame, and she also won Man Booker Prize in 2006 for this novel, and it also helped her to get National Book Critics Circle Fiction Award. Fine. Now, the story of this novel is centered on two main characters, Biju and Sai. So Biju is an illegal Indian immigrant living in US. He's son of a cook who works for Sai's grandfather. And Sai is a girl living in mountainous Kalimpong with her maternal grandfather, Jemubhai. And with her, one more person lives, that is her cook, and a dog named Mutt. Her grandfather, Jemubhai, is a retired judge, and he is a man disgusted at Indian ways and customs. And he is, it is up to such an extent that he eats, chapati with a knife and fork. He hates all Indians, including his father, with whom he breaks ties with. And then he also left his wife at his father's place after torturing her. But the irony is that despite all these efforts made by Jemubhai, he was never accepted by the British. Okay, and all these reflections appear too in Jemubhai's mind as a retired judge. Okay, now if I talk about the major themes of this novel, so the very first theme which I observed was the class discrimination, which we find throughout the novel. And second is the loss of identity. So the class discrimination, which is India's rigid class system actually, we find it in every aspect of the characters' lives, and their daily life is also dictated by their social class. For example, Biju, who immigrated to America, uh, uh, having a notion in mind that perhaps in America he would not face the same class discrimination he had faced in India. But when he reached there, he is treated in the same way. Fine. And he also, when Biju goes to America to escape the class system, because he was born into the lower or servant class in India, he has expectation that in the Western world he will be treated differently. But he soon learns that America has its own type of imprisonment, and that is economic enslavement. And despite his time in the United States, Biju doesn't abandon his Indian identity, And he had seen the underground society in America and has a more objective vantage point by which to access the two cultures. Now, the second theme is loss of identity, and not only identical loss, but we through in this novel, every character suffers one of the multiple forms of loss. For example, spiritual loss, emotional loss, physical loss. And this theme of loss runs rampant throughout this novel, and each character handles the experience differently, some exhibiting the positive change while others stay the same, and while the rest reach their demise. And as I said, that from the very beginning of the novel, the Indian caste system is recognizable. But towards the end of the book, the reader understands that loss is not only segregated to the lower caste systems, but the upper caste systems have more to lose. Okay, now the third writer, that is Sauna Singh Baldwin. She was born in 1962, and she is a Canadian American novelist of Indian descent. Her parents actually moved to Canada, and then she was born there. So she belongs to the second generation diaspora. And her novel, which I have opted for this paper, is What the Body Remembers. And this novel was translated into 14 different languages, and it won the 2000 Commonwealth Writers Prize for the Canada Caribbean region. And it was also longlisted for the Orange Prize in Fiction. Now, this novel revolves around three characters, and it is roughly spanning the 2 decades leading up to the partition of India, and then we also find after partition situation. And the story is of Sardarji, who is a foreign return engineer, and he belongs to a very good family. And about his wives, first is Satya, who is his first wife, but she couldn't produce child. So Sardarji decides to remarry. And Roop is a young girl, and she her mother has died, and her father is very poor. So and he's in debt actually. So she agrees to marry a person who is elder than her. Now we see that Roop tries hard to become she tries hard that Satya accepts her as her younger sister, but all in vain. Satya starts hating her, and a rivalry between the two develops. And later on we see in the novel that the enraged older wife Satya commits suicide shortly before partition. And after her death, Roop and Sardarji, finding themselves within the boundaries of the newly drawn country of Pakistan, journey across the border to India to start a new life. Now, so Baldwin's novel is of almost 500 pages are there, and it offers a description of this border community, which is dwelling on the gendered processes of subjectification, and particularly on the ways in which men and women are enjoined to remember community through both narrative and embodied acts. So and then there is a moment of final moments of violence in the novel, and these moments are to be read within this preset framework, wherein Baldwin explores the many kinds of memory that gendered bodies create for the communal body. So this novel can be read from the feminist perspective also, because it talks about female situation also. And okay, fine. So at last, I would like to conclude my topic. So it is evident from the discussion that each female diasporic writer has different approach in their writing. We saw Bharti Mukherjee talking about the migrants who come back to their native place after many years of exile, and when they reach there, they find they get it difficult to relate themselves to their homeland because of the change. And on the other hand, Kiran Desai and Shauna Singh focus on identity crisis, loss of roots, and cultural conflicts, etc. So this is end of my topic. I hope you all enjoyed it, and thank you for providing me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, madam. Really, it is a wonderful presentations regarding the female writers and diasporic literature. Really, it is wonderful presentation. This is the question session. Is there any questions for her? Do anybody wants to ask any questions to her, or else we will move to the second person?
Madam, we can move to the next person now.
Okay, thank you, sir. So now the second person, Miss Sri Priyadarshini S, research scholar, Karunya Institute of Technology and Sciences, Karunya Nagar and Coimbatore. I invite her to present her paper. Please, madam.
Good afternoon, one and all. I'm Sri Priyadarshini, research scholar of Karunya University, doing a research under the guidance of Dr. Amuda Dhanaraj. If my slides visible?
Yes.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Okay. My presentation is about psych of COVID patients and Azaro in the famished road, a comparative study. First, let me explain about my title. I have compared the psychological trauma of the protagonist and COVID patients, as well as also comparing the economical crisis of the protagonist family and countries which are affected by COVID. So moving to the next slide is about my author and novel. Benokri, present Nigerian writer and one of the Africa's most prominent post-colonial and postmodern writer. He won Man Booker Prize in 1991 for his novel The Famished Road. His novel comes under the trilogy of the African trilogy. This book is about giving a voice to the living myth of the spirit world. And my presentation focuses on the impoverished protagonist psychological trauma while living in the spirit world and comparing the state of COVID-19 patients. So, and my second slide is about psychological trauma between the protagonist and COVID patients. Azaro is the protagonist of my novel. He is also called as Abiku and also called as Spirit Child. His life was completely immersed in an illusionary world, and he was in fear to face the challenges in his life. And he was always in dilemma. He can't realize what had happened in his life. He was affected by psychological trauma, and I have highlighted his exact quotes. Just I read this. I had never seen in my life before. All the houses were gigantic, the trees were small, the sky low, the air golden. Also, the COVID-19 patients also have some kind of risk, and they also have the same psychological trauma. And also, I have quoted here, there are the other reasons of stress caused by the COVID-19 in times when social isolation and distancing practices are being applied, they are increased risk. A pandemic known as COVID-19 has engulfed the entire globe. COVID-19 patients' minds were filled with the fear caused by potentially falling victims to the diseases can itself be an overwhelming experience as it stirs up people's emotions and sensitivities. Here I can prove their psychological trauma by the scene. Azaro can hear the voices of his spirit companions when he wasn't alone. As the same thing happened when isolating the COVID patients in a single room while they are depressed, they can hear the IV fluid sounds and monitor sound in a terrific manner. So Moving to my next slide is about the financial crisis of Azaro's family and COVID-19 countries. So, Azaro's family is a daily wage people. They are poor, that they can't afford even a single candle at night, forcing them to live in a dark. So, let me show the exact scenario of Azaro's family through my highlighted quotes. Mom came back in. Are you still up? Yes. Go to sleep. I'm hungry. She was silent. Wait for your father. We will all share his food. So this is the exact scenario of my protagonist family. Also, COVID-19 has impacted our lives, remains neglected and a huge omission. COVID-19 has interrupted our way of life and has further disrupted individuals, families, and communities, putting them under the stress of health and economic burdens. During the pandemic, every country suffered, even the opulent countries also collapsed due to the economical crisis. The psychological illusion of the main character is compared to COVID 19. Azaro realizes his problems in the middle of the novel and fights his imaginary world. That is how people should respond to the pandemic situation, as well as consider how to overcome this most heinous situation from all the angles, including financially, mentally, and physically. When the character realizes that he has a hope of overcoming his psychological disorder in the same way that everyone should have hope on their own. As a result, people must accept what they have while also remaining calm in the face of adversity. So, this is about my presentation, and thank you.
Really, it is a very good presentation. You are so brief and you are up to the point. Okay, what you are going to say about, and you have talked about the psychological things of COVID patients and your protagonist. It is very crisp. It is very good. Okay, thank you
Okay.
very much, Sri Pradeshni. Is there any other questions is related for her?
There is a question, ma'am. You want to ask me?
Yes, please, sir.
Uh, Priya, can you tell me, does
Sir.
that protagonist of the novel,
Yes, sir.
does he comes out of the trauma of that what he was suffering? Does he comes out from that, or he just to keep on suffering from the trauma?
Sir, actually, this novel continues within the continuous novel. It is a trilogy. In the final end of the novel, the last novel would be shows that protagonist will come out his psychological trauma.
Like COVID patients. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Next, we will move to another person. Raisi Ahmed Mir, MPhil Research Scholar, Department of History, Assam University, Assam. Sir, please start your presentations.
Uh, Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, myself, Rais Ahmad Mir, research scholar, Department of History, Assam University, Silchar, Assam. Today, my entitled topic is Kanishka and the spread of Buddhism in Kashmir. As we know, Kashmir is known for its beauty from since from ancient times, and it attracted number of the dynasties from different corners of the world, such as the Mauryans, Indo-Greeks, Sakas, Parthians, and the Kushanas. With the coming of these new dynasties, the new religious faiths came into existence, such as Hinduism, Shaivism, Jainism, Zoroastrianism, and Buddhism. Among these new faiths, it was Buddhism which received the great impetus and enjoyed the royal state patronage, not only from the Buddhist rulers such as Ashoka and Kanishka of the Mauryan and Kushana dynasties, but also from the many Hindu and Muslim rulers as well. According to the Buddhist tradition, Kanishka held the fourth great council of the church in Kashmir at a place which is known by the name of ancient name, that is Kundalwana. This Kundalwana has been identified with the modern name of Harman, which is in the vicinity of Srinagar near the Shalimar Mughal gardens. And it was the period of Kanishka in which Kashmir attained the unprecedented prosperity in Buddhism. This is well evident from the Kushana Buddhist themes that has been found in the different areas of the valley. The literary Evidence also substantiated that the large number of Buddhist sites of the Kushana period that are located in the different nooks of the valley, but more so in the remotest forest areas, which are even difficult to reach today there. Even in the modern times, there is still devoid of transportation system, and if one has to go there, he has to either walk on foot or can ride a horse to reach these sites. It is without any doubt that these Kushana sites throw the significant information on the spread of Buddhism in Kashmir. Mention may be made of Doinfathar, Hoynur, Hutumur, Tekiawala, Ahan, Kralchak, Ushkar, and Kanishpur. The huge quantity of Kanishka's coins retrieved in Kashmir further attests to the fact that no less significant evidence of Kashmir's emergence as a famous place of Kushana Empire is Kanishka's decision to choose the Kashmir for the venue of the fourth Great World Buddhist Conference in Kashmir. Significantly, Kalha in his Rajtarani not only refers Kanishka as a great ruler of Kashmir, but he also makes a mention of building his activities. According to Kalhana, he built a town after his name as Kanishkapura, which has been identified as a modern town of Kanishpur in the district Baramulla. And he also constructed number of mathas and chaityas elsewhere in the valley of Kashmir. Clearly, Kalhana refers to the same Kanishka who is famous in the Buddhist traditions as the great patron of Buddhism. But one thing here is that there is a controversy about the conversion of Kanishka to Buddhism. According to Taranatha and the great Tibetan historian and Sachinfar, they says that Kanishka was converted to Buddhism by a king who ruled over Kashmir, namely Sinha or Simha. But there is another story, which is that the conversion of Kanishka to Buddhism is made by a great Sanskrit scholar, namely Ashwagosha, a Brahman convert from Ayodhya, who is stated to have got as part of war indemnity from Pataliputra. Besides this, the Chinese Buddhist writings also attributed that Kanishka came closer to Buddhism when he came in contact with Ashwagosha, the most renowned Buddhist scholar from Pataliputra. The identity of Kanishka, according to Kalhana, is with the great Kushana or the Indo-Scythian ruler of northwestern India, so well known to us from the Buddhist traditions, the coins, and the inscriptions that has been recognized long ago. This Kalhana portrays the Kanishka as Turushka king, that is from the Turkish nationality, as powerful sovereigns and as faithful patrons of the Buddhist church. The Kanishka of the Rajtarani was already recognized in 1833 by Princip as Kanishki of the coinage, which has been identified as the Kanishka, who is famous in the Buddhist traditions. And according to uniform Buddhist tradition, this Kanishka held the fourth great council of the church in Kashmir at a place known as Kundalwana that has been identified with Horvan, and in which the hundreds of Buddhist savantas participated. According to Hyun-san, who visited the valley in the early 7th century during the king of the Dulabha, he says that he still found the local traditions regarding that ruler fully alive in the country. And it was Kanishka who struck the coins with the name of Bodo, that is Buddha. Besides being himself a Buddhist, Kanishka was quite tolerant towards the other faiths which was prevalent in Kashmir during his period. It was because he did not patronize one faith that is well reflected in the images of his coins that were produced during his reign, which shows the figures of various Hindu, Persian, and Greek deities. Kalhana's notice of the popularity and power enjoyed by Buddhism in Kashmir under the sway of this Turushka king thus truly represents the historical information. On account of hosting the Buddhist council in Kashmir, Kashmir received a great importance among the Buddhist circles and attracted the attention of eminent Buddhist scholars and saints from the different corners of the world. In order to receive the education at the feet at the feet of learned Buddhist monks of Kashmir. They consider that without a visit to Kashmir Valley, their knowledge will not be completed, and some of them made it their permanent abode. In this connection, the Rajtarani of Kalhana mentions that the great Nagarjuna Buddhist scholar of South India took abode in Kashmir during the period of Kanishka at a place which has been called as Sadr Hadwana, the grove of the six saints, mentioned by Kalhana and is identified by M.A. Sittin with the modern village of Herman, where this great council was held. Thus, we can say that the Kanishka's council is an important landmark in the history of Buddhism as it represented the rise of what may be called Sanskrit Buddhism. Because for the first time in the history of Buddhism, Sanskrit was made the language of the scriptures. And as we know, that all the canonical texts and commentaries were drawn up in the Sanskrit by the great eminent Sanskrit scholars like Ashwagosha and Parasva, who adorned the court of Kanishka. The emergence of Kanishka and the emergence of Sanskrit as the language of Buddhism had far-reaching consequences, and it paved the way for creeping of Hindu concepts into Buddhism and the new orientation of the faith at the hands of masterminds like Ashwagosha and Nagarjuna came to be known as the Mahayana. It was the fourth Buddhist council in which this Mahayana Buddhism came into existence, and it was this school which found the favor in Kashmir under this king. Thus, we can say that the Kanishka Council can be regarded as an epoch-making event in the history of Buddhism, wherein the Sanskrit was made a vehicle of Buddhist scriptures for the first time in the history of Buddhism. Thus, the credit also goes to this council that for the first time in the history of Buddhism, freedom of thought and expression was recognized, and it was declared that all the 18 sectors of the thought in Buddhism were declared as collective. The council is also important henceforth because Kashmir became the headquarters of Sarvastivadina school of Buddhism, which was popularized by the Kashmiris in Central Asia, China, Tibet, and Southeast Asia. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. You have described the history of Kanishka and how the spread of Buddhism in Kashmir.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
okay, very good. Um, any questions for him?
Yes, ma'am. One question, ma'am.
Yes, please, sir.
You, in your rise, you said that a Buddhist conference was held in Kashmir, no?
Sir?
You said that there was a Buddhist conference was held in Kashmir and it made Kashmir famous. You said no.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When that conference was held, and one more question, why
Yes, sir.
Kanishka converted to Buddhism?
Sir, first, sir, it was the first century AD in which Kanishka held this conference in Kashmir. Actually, first Kanishka wanted to hold this conference in Gandhara or elsewhere in Rajgriha. But the most celebrated scholars who adorned his court, they did not accept either Gandhara or Rajgriha because they said that there is a lot of problem because there is a lot of sectarianism and the areas are most heated. And later they decided that Kashmir it is well atmospherically well and is very much cool. That's why they prefer to hold this conference in Kashmir. Second question. Hello,
Why
sir.
Kanishka, sir? The second question is why Kanishka followed the Buddhism? Why he changed to Buddhism?
Actually, ma'am, he was himself a very gentle king, and he followed the path of Ashoka, who was himself a Buddhist. That's why he became a Buddhist king.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Next, we
Thank
will
you.
move to the Ms. Gopika Unni P, PhD Research Scholar, Department of English, Sri Shankara College, Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam, Kerala. Ma'am,
Yes,
please
ma'am.
present your paper.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. A very warm good evening to all delegates present here. So, my topic for today's presentation is Realms of Culture and Ecology, an analysis of serpent worship in Kerala. So, as we all know that the cult of snake worship in Kerala is closely interwoven with the life of the people of the state and is a component of its rich cultural heritage. Pampintullal is a ritual art performed in Kerala in relation with the serpent worship. So, my paper explores the significance of serpent worship and analyzes Serpantullal as traditional ritualistic art form of Kerala. It analyzes about the Naga worship in communities like Nayar, Puluvan, and their system of Naga worship. Serpent worship has brought about the protection of environment and different varieties of snakes in Kerala. In Kerala, one way of worshipping serpent gods is by laying symmetrically designed floor drawings. They are called columns with bright and colorful powders made from natural objects, and this makes the picture of serpent beautiful. There exists an elaborate ritualistic ceremony called Pampintullal or the serpent dance conducted for propitiating the serpent gods. Worship of snake gods or nagas, which has found expressions in literature, art, architecture, sculpture, folklore, and traditional paintings, have been continuing in various forms. This custom has dominated the religious beliefs of the common people without any particular religious or caste barriers throughout the ages. The excavations conducted at various archaeological sites have also thrown light on several antiquities related to snake worship. So, my paper aims to provide an insight onto the ecocentric tradition of Naga cult in Kerala within the prism of cultural studies. It also examines the significance of Naga worship and sacred groves, also known as the Sarpa cow, in contemporary times. So, Sarpa worship or snake worship is a primeval custom that prevailed almost all over the India since the ancient time. It is not only a part and parcel of any particular religion, but also believed to be a part of both good and bad amends. It mostly revolves around Naga, the hooded cobra. So, the origin of the word Nagas comes from the Indo-Germanic language, which means snake in English. Naga has been both a subject of fear and wonder. Its capacity to move fast without legs, to live in water and on land, and its keen sense of hearing have provoked human imagination and gave rise to vast serpent lore. The marks on the hood and different color makes the snake quite distinctive from other reptiles. Epics explain the stories like mythical birth, then murder of King Parikshit, being the rope in Samudra Mathana, then hostility between this Naga and Pandava, stories of Kaliya Mathanam, etc. So there was a process of assimilation which has happened in various religion, thoughts, and beliefs, along with the adaptation of race and culture in India. As a result of region where Naga worship preserved as an age-old important cult in different forms and practiced in different ways. Attempts were made by various scholars to understand the Naga worship of India in general and Kerala in particular. It is difficult to trace when and how Naga worship began in Kerala. There are no direct and conclusive evidences found so far regarding the origin of Naga worship in Kerala. Snakes had been worshipped in Kerala from time immemorial with the Serpa cow, that is, the sacred groves, where the plants and trees were allowed to grow unhindered to facilitate a habitat for the snakes in a remote corner of the house compound, forming an integral part of the concept that is Taravada. Serpent worships have a long tradition in the state, and these rituals had been drawing huge crowd in the past since it is believed that the spirits inhabiting the cow would bless the devotees at the end of the ritual. These rituals and rites performed in the sacred groves would be varied in some regions in accordance with the precedences of region and the pattern deity worshipped at the sacred groves. Serpakau means sacred groves, I have already mentioned, which are usually a cluster of the wild jungle trees ornately draped with this sophisticated creepers and are found in the southwest corner of each house compound of Malayali Hindu family. Now, Serpakaus do not have any particular architectural form. Small pieces of stone, with or without carvings, are placed in the area and should be kept open to the nature without making any kind of roof structures. These places serve as a shrine and are known as Serpa Kshetram or Naga temple. The deities are fixed together, but it does not have any particular position to fix in the sacred groves. Besides the religious background of central Kerala, the environment that the people lived over their land had a constant association or relationship with the snake. The large variety of snakes and their favorable ecological factors for snake habitation most probably played an important role for such a strong affiliation to the snake in this part of the country. Serpamthulal is conducted during the traditional festivals like Ailyam, Star of the Local and Mank, every year in the sacred groves and temples dedicated for snake gods. Serpamthulal is a major ritual in temples of Kerala like Sri Pabungava Kshetram and also Sri Nagaraja Temple, then Parapur Nagadan Kovil, etc. Then Serpentulal is a ritualistic art form performed to appease the snake god and bring prosperity and good health to the family. Forms of worship of god by human beings varied in different parts of the world. Human beings worship varied wonders and mysteries in nature due to many reasons. The need for his survival made conservation of natural resources by giving a sacred status. The awareness of protection of natural habits and wildlife were seen in many cultures. The protection of such ecology could be done by instituting cultural and religious practices to the particular needful area. So it can be visualized that Naga worship has been helping to protect such a kind of ecological system in the form of its ritual space called as sacred groves or Serpakaus. Now, the snake gods are worshipped through different rituals and customs. Ailyam Puja is a major festival conducted in relation to the Naga worship in Kerala generally and also in the central Kerala especially. During this day, snakes are appeased by different rituals and many offerings like Noorum Palum, Nagakolam, Kalamiruthu, Puluvan Pattu, etc. The belief in Kerala is that the serpent gods are displaced by even the slight lapse in the performance of rituals and pujas to propitiate them, and by activities such as neglect, trespass, and pollution. So, all these rituals and folklores in Kerala indicate the deep rooted images of serpents in the minds of Keralites since long. Now, in Kerala, from time immemorial, the concept of conservation of nature has been carefully woven in the various religious beliefs and customs. And serpent groves are a prime example of this approach. The ecocentric tradition of India gave importance to every living creature in ecosystem and recognizes intricate interconnections between the living and non-living, which ensure the free flow of matters and energy. In Kerala, Naga worship is considered to be the manifestation of nature and psychological quality intelligence in Hinduism. Offerings in the temples are given only once in a year in the Malayalam month of Tulam. The stillness within the deep shades of the groves, the feeling of the wilderness provided by the forest like vegetation, the unique rituals, practices, and taboos still associated with snakes, the mystery associated with treatment of snake bite victims, the fascinating folklores associated with cows and snake worship are all part of the rich culture of the land. Perhaps nowhere else in India is the cult of snake worship so intricately linked with the daily lives of the people as in Kerala. Now, the rituals offered at cows vary from place to place according to the type of important deity presiding over the grove. According to the folklore, serpents are among the most powerful and highly benevolent divine spirits. Now, all Naga related rituals and customs like Pulvan Patu, Sarpampattu, Kalamiruthu, and Sarpabeli are conducted in these particular ritual spaces almost all over the Kerala. Besides in the religious background of central Kerala, the environment had a constant association and relationship with the snakes. Now, to speak of the pivotal ecological role played by snakes in controlling the increasing population of rodents and snakes themselves, conservation of existing serpacas would help ensure ecological sustainability and livelihood security of the local communities. Above all, the cult of serpents as an ecological and cultural symbol cannot be simply disregarded by any person in Kerala. That's it, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Gopika. It's a wonderful thing that you have discussed about the culture and especially about the serpent worship.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
I just want to clarify one simple doubt with you.
Yes.
Wha- We have a number of animals, that means organisms in our earth. Why?
Yes,
What
ma'am.
is the speciality of the serpent? Why we
So
are worshipping serpent in this manner?
there are so many myths or mythological stories associated with the worship of the serpents. So mainly, these serpents are treated as a symbol of the powerful deity. That is the only thing, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir, in this session, we have listened for the four papers. All these papers, they have given the very, what to say, distinctive informations regarding the different things.
Yes.
Really, it is wonderful. And I just want a coordinator to have the sessions next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Talavi ma'am, for your valuable time and sharing knowledge and being the chairperson for this session. Thank you very much.